The 4th century was a period of profound change within Rome. The empire, which, since the Tetrarchy, was safe from external pressures, saw how another war waged in its insides. The old Roman paganism, whose origin can be traced back to the Indo-European times, was losing terrain against a new religion, Christianity. At the start of the century, Emperor Constantine I massively favored this new faith, starting a trend of Christian emperors that would remain until the fall of Constantinople in the 15th century. There was, however, one exception. Emperor Julian, known as the Apostate, renounced to Christianity and organized a return to polytheism. After a failed campaign in Mesopotamia that Julian paid with his life, paganism would never see another emperor following it. Jovian, an official of Julian's army and a Christian, was named emperor, but after a few months in the purple, he died without reaching the capital, Constantinople. It is at that moment when our protagonist arises. Valentinian, another high-ranking officer of the army, was proclaimed emperor by the troops on the 26th of February, 364. He was son to a Pannonian official, which served as officer during the times of Constantine, Gratian the Elder. When Valentinian was elected, he refused to present himself to the troops immediately because there was soon to be a leap day. When it ended, he addressed the army in a speech that Ammianus Marcellinus has kept us from the shadows of history. I rejoice, virtuous defenders of the provinces, and with pride I sustain and will always sustain that, without looking forward to it or desiring it, you gave your virtues to me, considering me as the most prominent of all to rule the Roman world. With the matter being in your hands and without a chosen ruler of the empire, you accomplished usefully and gloriously, elevating to the culmen of honors he who, as you know from experience, lived splendidly and integrally from an incipient teenage until this maturity of age. So spoke Valentinian, whose speech earned him a warm applause and praise by the army. Soon after starting his rule, he appointed his brother Valens as co-emperor, giving him command of the eastern provinces on March 28, 364. Zosimus adds to this fact that it was because of an illness and fear of an early death that he appointed his brother as co-ruler. Valentinian was a noble figure in the army, but he had an important flaw: his profound anger. Accounts of him vary from him hitting a pagan priest to killing a judge for issuing a penalty which he viewed as excessive, through one officer being burnt because of some petty crimes. This anger would prove to be key in the future of his reign, as we will see. We said that Valentinian was a Christian. However, and strangely for his time, his faith was not a major factor in his policy. Despite the already mentioned account saying that he once hit a pagan priest who tried to bless him with water, Valentinian's Nicene Christian faith can easily be unnoticed by the modern reader. As we said, before him was the last pagan emperor of Rome, Julian, whose belief shaped his rule. But after him, his brother Valens, an Arian, and his two sons, Gratian, Nicene, and Valentinian II, Arian, would give much more importance to their beliefs than Valentinian, especially Gratian. His only controversy, minimally linked to religion, was the kicking of Julian's pagan courtiers. Thus, we do not see in Valentinian's reign the religious controversies which we can find in other rulers, such as the ones against the Arians during Constantine's monarchy and the ones against the pagans during Gratian's and Theodosius's. Valentinian chose to leave his religion on a second plane to center the efforts of the empire on its growingly numerous external enemies. Valentinian left the big Persian prey to his brother Valens in the east, but he would have the tough challenge of facing the agile Germanic tribes around the Rhine and the Danube, which he would command from his capital at Mediolanum, modern-day Milan. Not long after reaching Italy, Valentinian received some terrible news. The Alemanni had overrun the Rhine frontier and were devastating Gaul. He ordered his army to repel the invaders, but were unable to, so he decided to stay at Gaul. At the same time, Valens faced a major challenge to his rule. Procopius, a member of the Constantinian dynasty, raised against him in arms. Valentinian knew that, and, because of the siege of the revolt, many envoys made him believe that his brother had been assassinated. The Western Emperor, however, whatever the destiny of his brother was, decided to stay at the frontier. His decision proved to be the correct one, because Valens did not die and could confront the usurpation with success. Between the end of 366 and the first months of 367, Gaul faced another invasion from the Alemanni. Shortly after crossing the Rhine, the barbarians captured and killed 2 Roman generals, but were later repelled by one of Valentinian's generals, Jovinus. Shortly after, in August 367, the emperor fell severely ill. Fearing death, he proclaimed his eldest son, Flavius Gratianus, co-ruler in the west, as Augustus. The newly crowned emperor was 8 years of age at the time, and proof of Valentinian's desperation in front of a death that he believed imminent, but alas, would not be so. Shortly after, in the same year of 367, Valentinian would see another menace to the empire, this time in the lands of Britannia, in an event that Ammianus Marcellinus calls Barbarica Conspiratio, but known today as the Great Conspiracy. Hadrian's Wall was unable to stop the Scottish tribes coming from the north, and at the same time, other Germanic peoples, mainly the Saxons, had arrived by sea. The tribes had completely devastated the island, leaving it, as the Syrian historian says, in the greatest of miseries. The commander of the naval garrison of the province, some Nectaridas, was also killed. Troubled by this, Valentinian decided to act and sent Count Theodosius, father to future Emperor Theodosius the Great, to restore order. This general was able to defeat a barbarian army close to Londinium, modern-day London, and entered the city to repair the damage done to the provinces. He then distributed the army in the various Roman settlements to avoid further disorders. He later put down a rebellion led by some Valentius who sought to usurp power before it even started. While these favorable events took place in Britannia, Valentinian was still fighting the barbarians on the Rhine. To facilitate the task, the emperor ordered a major fortification building along the river from its high course in Raetia, roughly modern-day Switzerland, up to the North Sea. He built a fortress too close to the river Neckar, and worried that its strong flow may slowly destroy the fortification, he ordered his engineers to divert the river. At the same time, he ordered Theodosius to attack the Alemanni from Raetia, which were now dispersed due to fears of Burgundian, a rival people, attack. After taking many prisoners, the emperor settled them in Italy. Later, Valentinian organized an attack led by himself against the Alemanni. Building a bridge with boats over the Rhine, he sought to defeat the barbarians and capture their king, Macrianus. Due to the noise that a column of Roman soldiers made, the king was able to escape. Furious, he devastated the enemy's land and returned to his headquarters at Augusta Treverorum, modern-day Trier. In 373, after Theodosius suppressed another rebellion in Africa, another barbarian people was devastating Roman land, the Quadi, with their Sarmatian allies, which were outraged because the Roman had built forts in their territories. The Duke of Valeria, Marcellianus, invited their king Gabinius to a banquet to have diplomatic talks, but he treacherously murdered him, which further outraged the Quadi. The barbarians were completely devastating the province, but a savior soon emerged, Theodosius, the son of the count of the same name and future emperor, who, with the Mosian legions, decimated the lines of the Sarmatians, who quickly retreated to their home territory. In 374, Valentinian made a new offensive against the Alemanni, which devastated much of their territory and pushed Macrianus to make peace with Valentinian. With the Alemann crisis solved, Valentinian went to Pannonia in the spring of 375 to coordinate the efforts against the Quadi and the Sarmatians. After some months, which gave him time to reorganize the province and to punish the negligent Roman authorities, such as Probus, the Praetorian prefect, and Illyricum, he crossed the Danube and, as he did with the Alemanni, devastated their lands. As it happened with the Alemanni, Valentinian expected some diplomatic envoys from the barbarians, which came. The heralds made excuses to the emperor, saying that the invaders which devastated the provinces were just bandits that had nothing to do with their tribes, and justified their anger by the building of fortifications on their territory by Valentinian. The emperor, furious as never before because of the insolence of the envoys, suffered an ictus and died on the 17th of November, 375. The consequences of his sudden death were softened by the previous elevation of his son Gratian to the purple, who took his father's place in the west and the rule of his brother Valens in the east. The reign of Valentinian is viewed by many as the last glory days of the Western Roman Empire. His efforts to keep the increasingly numerous invaders at bay and his fortification of the frontiers, along with his religious tolerance that helped the wounds of Julian's reign to heal, gave the empire an energy that, without a doubt, needed to death. That's it for today, but don't worry, we're just getting started. Thanks for joining this historical ride, and get ready for more fun facts and stories in the next video. See you soon, time travelers.